first opened its doors in 1929. This 600-seat auditorium was once a popular haven for Jacksonville's black theatergoers. The Ritz and the surrounding LaVilla area were once the shopping and entertainment mecca for Jacksonville's black community. And if the dreams of professional dancer Anthony Patterson come to life, this 60-year-old legacy and Jacksonville historic landmark will live once again. Anthony, why are you going to do it?
I think it's important that a person's past be a part of their future. And out of 4 black theaters that were in this community, this is the only one that's still standing. And I think it's important to the future of the black community, as well as the community of Jacksonville, that we restore this theater and give the community of Jacksonville some kind of arts and entertainment district. We desperately need that kind of place.
Now, as far as I know, you were not a part of the generation that the Ritz is a part of. I mean, I think you were about 18 or so when the Ritz was already closed. Why the interest by you? You mentioned, of course, the past, but why interest by you?
I think a lot of young people in Jacksonville want to know what happened and where the black community was in Jacksonville. And people like myself did not know until you start talking to old-timers what used to go on here. And I think my sense of preservation and my sense of arts and entertainment just led me to this gorgeous building. And I think this building lends itself perfectly to what we're trying to do. And also the area that this building will fit nowhere else in Jacksonville. It belongs right here.
Now, what about the building itself? As we look at it today, the marquee is the landmark.
Yes.
It's the thing that reminds us of the Ritz.
Yes.
What about the theater that is worth saving?
The theater, if like we said before, is one of the only black theaters that are still remaining in the city. But in terms of the state of Florida, this is the first time that historic buildings that belong to a community of black people has been preserved. Also, this building, the neon sign that you see, the Ritz, is the first neon sign in the state of Florida. This building has a lot of history outside just the sign, but what it stood for in terms of people not going to other theaters, and they had to come here. So that history with the Art Deco, the Egyptian, the Mediterranean style that's in there is a part of the past of the black community. It goes all the way back to Africa in terms of when they opened King Tut's Tomb in 1922, 23, all the architectural styles took on the Egyptian style, and that's where the building get a lot of its Art Deco-ish and Egyptian style from.
Now, you know, as we would look inside the theater itself and we see what kind of repair it's in now, what basically is inside the theater at this point? What will we see when we go inside?
Okay, basically what you will see is nothing. The building was rented to some church individuals, and they took all the cast iron seats out of it and put them in the alley, and of course a wise person came by and sold the cast iron for money. But what we plan to do is replace, we have some idea of what the seating was like, and we want to have very comfortable seating, so we're losing some of the seats that were originally in there from the 600 about to 564 seats, so we can have comfortable seats. But basically the balcony sit at about 200 people, and it had a small stage, which is about a 10-foot stage, and we're adding a lot to make it a performing arts area instead of a movie house that it was in its heyday in 1929, 30s, and 40s.
Now, what's going to be the difference between the Ritz here and the Florida Theater across town, and of course what's being done already at the Civic Auditorium? What's the difference?
The difference is the Ritz is a medium-sized house, and it would be a medium-priced house for the community to afford to fill a house and to make money on their art. The Florida Theater sits about 2,000 people. The Civic Auditorium sits over 3,200 seats. So what you're looking at is you're looking at a framework for getting small organizations to have a place to perform and have a crowd. Also, the size of our auditorium is sort of different because of the size of our stage is a lot larger than the Florida Theater stage. The wing space is a lot larger, and the backstage space is a lot larger. So what we're adding is adequacy in the art, what is necessary for the art to be presented well as to be received well by the audience.
Now, as I look down Davis Street now, I see one picture, and we're not just talking about the renovation of the Ritz, we're talking about really the Ritz Theater District, which is this entire section. What's the dream?
Okay, the dream is to have the centerpiece, the theater as a centerpiece, but the buildings that are across the street from the theater, between the Union Street and the Kings Road, will be a whole district of buildings with restaurants.
And that's what we're viewing now.
That's exactly what you view now in the model. You have the Richmond building was built in 1912, would be a jazz club, and giving people a place to go have dinner, after they leave the theater or before they come to the theater, and just walk along the street and do some light shopping, or just be in an atmosphere that was Jacksonville in the 1920s and the 30s.
What needs to be done at this point? Where are you in terms of getting it all together? You're just about to finish with your first fundraising affair. What needs to be done now?
What we need to do now is we're continuing to raise from the community $2.5 million. We already have begun that, and it's very important for us over the next year and a half to continue to raise those funds to match city and state dollars that are coming to help us renovate the theater. And besides just renovating the theater, we are also working on restoring the buildings that are around the theater so it all can happen at one time.
Again, back to the central point. I can remember as a kid being in the Ritz and around the street there, the Strand and the Roosevelt. But it is something that I think is so special about here that are you going to be able to capture some of the magic of the old days?
We're hoping so. We're hoping so. The magic of the old days are coming back in a lot of ways in terms of fashion, especially in the dance where you see a lot of things that were happening. We're hoping to bring a lot of that back so the people, especially the black community of Jacksonville, have a place to say, that used to be our place. But the community as a whole can be proud of what used to go on down there, and we'll be able to show them. This is the only area of Jacksonville that predates the 1901 fire that's still intact. So I think it's vitally important that we preserve this area and give the community something that they could come to and remember what this community was like in the early 1900s. So I'm sure we can be able to recapture some of the magic that you saw as a child.